Here we are, once again. And all I have to say is wow. Not just to all that has come out on top of Dr. Disrespect's tweet that people are calling the confession, but the reactions of his fans, not specifically the ones that are obviously disappointed, but the ones who refuse to accept what has happened, and have made countless ridiculous excuses against accepting what has happened. In this video, we're going to break down as quickly as possible what the accusations were, what the timeline was, what was convincing and what wasn't convincing, and then of course the arguments being made against everything that was coming out and has come out. Before we get into it, please be sure to like this video, and if you understand that I don't post frequently, but you still want to subscribe anyways, I want to preemptively say thank you, and I very much appreciate you. So first things first, let's break down what caused the shit show to explode in the first place. Cody Connors, who was previously Director of Strategic Partnership at Twitch during the time of Doc's ban and lawsuit, stated June 21st, without naming anybody, that somebody got banned from Twitch for sending sexual messages through the Twitch Whisper chat room, of which employees at Twitch were clearly able to see, and that's why this unnamed individual got banned. Now, rather than Dr. Disrespect denying the details of this tweet or denying that he was the unnamed person mentioned in the tweet, he acknowledges that the tweet was about him. But he said this matter has already been settled and, quote, neither party admitted wrongdoing, which is not the same as saying you didn't do it, but his fans, of course, interpreted it as saying he didn't do it. Now, the initial arguments against this were from fans saying the individual was not a credible source, a nobody, before, of course, they found out that Cody actually worked a high-level position at Twitch during the time of the ban. Some people, after finding out that he had worked at Twitch, suggested that he must not have worked at Twitch, and even that claim must also be a lie. Others pointed out that Cody was leveraging the information he had on Doc to promote his music career, which was objectively a stupid move, and is a much more understandable root of skepticism. But then we had corroboration to the allegations made by other ex-Twitch employees who were there at the time as well, such as Zachary Diaz, who was the partnership's manager for content development and acquisition at Twitch during the time, and Rod Slasher Breslow, #1 gaming insider who made a career out of tracking down credible sources to write accurate pieces about what's going on behind the scenes in the gaming world. He had several additional sources inside of Twitch telling him the same thing at the time, as well as being told other additional information on Dr. Disrespect, which we will get into later. Now, people will point out that more ex-Twitch employees came out to corroborate the claims, but I'm going to specifically just go on what we had initially for right now. We'll get to that later. We had 2 people who worked there at the time who were concurring the details of the allegations, saying that this happened. Zach at one point saying he's glad it's all out in the open now, as well as a gaming insider who heard the same from his sources, proven credible in the past. But people still began to try and redefine what, quote, credible sources actually meant to them. And some people gave examples from the past where a Reddit post from an unknown Redditor making a claim about a text message or an email from an unnamed unknown individual or source starts a rumor, and how it's only right to apply skepticism in those situations. And you know what? They are absolutely right. You should absolutely apply very, very thick skepticism to those situations. But it's not hard to see that it would be a blatant and utter bullshit lie to try and compare those circumstances to the Dr. Disrespect situation when his allegations were not put forth by unnamed, unknown, unverifiable sources, but people out in the open not afraid to show who they are, who actually worked at Twitch at the time, as well as a journalist with additional sources who also worked there at the time. I'm not saying you can't still be skeptical at all, but this in no way garners the same level of skepticism as a no-name Redditor posting a claim from a no-face unnamed source that no known individual is coming out to back up. But it was these types of manufactured scenario equivalencies that people were using to justify their own refusal to acknowledge the possibility or likelihood that these allegations might be true. The other excuse was that if this really happened, Dr. Disrespect would be in jail, and since Dr. Disrespect is not in jail, therefore this must not have happened. And what those people don't understand is that in the real world, rich people get away with all types of illegal shit by handling them in private settlements. Big companies like to do this because you can avoid unwanted involvement from law enforcement and therefore avoid a larger incident and controversy that may hurt the image of your company. So I'm not getting mad at people who think the world should work in a way where these types of people don't get away with anything and they go straight to jail. I think we can all agree that that would be a much more just world. I'm just simply saying that the way it works in your head, unfortunately, isn't how things work in real life. Next, we're going to talk about the red flags. Dr. Disrespect refused to call anybody a liar, specifically Cody Connors and others that worked at Twitch. And he wouldn't directly deny the details of the allegations, specifically having texted an underage girl. he would compulsively lean on vague legalistic language of, quote, neither party admitted wrongdoing, which didn't actually mean he didn't do it. It just means that in the settlement, he wouldn't admit that he believed doing anything he considered wrong, and Twitch in turn refused to say that they were wrong in banning him or their reasons for banning him. So yes, Dr. Disrespect refused to admit wrongdoing in the settlement, but Twitch at the same time stood by their ban of Dr. Disrespect and their reasons for their ban, which is why Dr. Disrespect, to this day, is still banned. None of that was reversed. So that is all that, quote, neither party admitted wrongdoing actually means. So it's weird that he was leaning on that so hard rather than just saying outright he didn't text an underage girl. And that was a huge red flag for non-biased observers. But to hardcore fans, the legalistic language they of course interpreted in a much more optimistic way, insisting that it was in fact a direct refutation of the activities detailed in the allegations, which it obviously was not. His fans also pointed out that he got a payout, insisting that payout was related to a claim of defamation, libel, or something else, but those claims and assumptions are absolutely not true. That payout was actually related to a contract signed prior to the banning, so they were essentially just paying him money that they already agreed to pay him. Continuing, his own supporters told him that he should sue Connors and others for libel, because if none of these allegations are true, then this would be a super easy case to win in court. It would be super easy money for Dr. Disrespect and Midnight Society. And those people are right. If none of these allegations were true, he could easily sue for defamation, libel, whatever else his lawyers could pull out. But Dr. Disrespect was not doing that. Again, he wasn't calling Cody Connors a liar. He wasn't going after him for libel. And that alone was another huge red flag that, again, non-biased observers recognized as being a red flag. But like the other important details and context surrounding these developments, hardcore Disrespect fans were fighting really hard to just ignore and dismiss these things. There was a lot of denial in regard to how concerning these developments truly were. For others who don't know, Dr. Disrespect founded a gaming company called Midnight Society with ex-Infinity Ward dev Robert Bowling. Bowling made a tweet letting people know that he was now aware of the allegations and investigating the situation. Now, because Robert Bowling and Dr. Disrespect had a relationship, being co-founders of Midnight Society, being business partners, and to some extent friends, there were some fans concerned that Robert Bowling might have known about these allegations the whole time and was waiting until now to actually acknowledge them. But Robert Bowling set the record straight. He said that Twitch did not publicly detail the reasons for the ban, and that Dr. Disrespect assured him that he didn't know the reasons for his own ban. And then Dr. Disrespect simply showed Robert Bowling the legalistic language of neither party admitting wrongdoing, and at the end of the day, Robert Bowling didn't have anything to make an assumption off of. He just simply didn't know. He also points out, though, after Cody Connors' tweet, which he did see, which did make him aware of the allegations, he then instantly started working on finding out what was going on. Then after clearing the air on those questions, he then had to deal with the other side of Twitter coming after him, the side of Twitter that were Dr. Disrespect fans. These individuals were not concerned about finding the truth. Their only concern was convincing people that they already knew the truth, and they objected to there being an investigation to find out what was true and what was false. Many of these individuals were telling Robert Bowling he should just blindly stand by Dr. Disrespect because they are business partners, and that Bowling should ignore the allegations in order to protect Dr. Disrespect and the Midnight Society. Now, I have to point this out because it becomes excessively relevant for really stupid reasons later on. Most of these individuals were right-leaning conservative types who were convinced the allegations against Dr. Disrespect was a completely fabricated left-wing woke conspiracy to further cancel culture. Okay? That does come up later. Robert Bowling replied many times to these types of responses in similar fashion to this, quote, I disagree. There is nothing wrong acknowledging that I am aware and not ignoring it. It's a serious topic with real-world consequences. My opinion doesn't matter, only the facts matter. I have an obligation to the truth when it comes to matters like this. He's basically saying his personal opinions about Dr. Disrespect do not matter if the facts themselves prove that Dr. Disrespect actually committed these things. What was really crazy to me about a lot of these responses coming from people whose political identity they not only wear on their sleeves, but tend to say, they care about protecting children, family values, God and country, yada, yada, yada. They were saying they didn't want the investigation, or we should all agree there's nothing to investigate and look the other way. You don't want to jeopardize Dr. Disrespect and or Midnight Society. That is just way more important. And look, I'm not saying these people deep down don't want to be people who care about kids in general. I'm just saying that refusing to acknowledge the credibility of multiple sources having worked at a location, corroborating the details of the allegations, and ignoring the red flags of Dr. Disrespect's responses, and refusal to call people liars and go after people for libel, and leaning heavily on legalistic, vague language rather than directly denying the details of the allegations, doing your best to bury your head in the sand to avoid taking a legitimately critical look at the context surrounding these developments as they come out, simply because someone is famous and you like their content and you want to protect them. This is the type of behavior in the real world which frequently leads to the protecting and enabling of predators. And I don't know if they realize that or if they do and they just simply don't care because they like disrespect that much. But it just seems like there was a lot of cognitive dissonance going on in those particular circles. And I'm not saying that people that identify as liberal didn't do anything dumb on their side. There was a fake Nick Merckx tweet that they pushed around. I'm pretty sure everybody saw that, and we can all agree that that was dumb. It doesn't help anything, and it was wrong. I'm just saying that the majority of teams-based nonsense advocating for the dismissal of critical thought and observation skills was in fact coming from the more extreme fans that were more or less right-leaning. Individuals that were so caught up in their own paranoia of calling everything they don't like woke that they end up in turn actually defending a predator is pretty insane. And I did make sure to let this individual know that. But regardless of the pressure from these types of fans, Robert Bowling still decided to do the right thing and investigate and talk to people at Twitch to reveal to him what really happened. Towards the end of this time, Dr. Disrespect was on his last stream where it appears he was notified of his termination from Midnight Society. And even though Midnight Society had already made their decision to terminate him and had allegedly already messaged him of his termination, Dr. Disrespect still tried to gaslight his fans at the end of his stream, suggesting, quote, "I may have to step away from Midnight Society."
I think more importantly, we need to, when I say step away, I'm going to either have to relay this to the Midnight Society, but maybe I step away from there too. Just completely remove.
Insinuating that if his fans later see that he's no longer with the company, they should assume that he did it on his own, that it was his decision. Even though around the time of him making this statement on his stream, Midnight Society had already made a post on Twitter saying that Dr. Disrespect was in fact terminated. And even though they didn't give him time to try and play things off as if he left on his own accord, he did later seemingly try to put a spin on things, claiming that it was actually a joint decision. So, it was both of us. But we'll get into that later. Robert Bowling later responded with a tweet saying, "If you inappropriately message a minor, I cannot work with you, period. I promised to act on facts, and I did." But even after this happened, there were still Dr. Disrespect fans in complete denial, saying this can't be true, it's all made up, very, very intense states of denial that these fans were then trying to repackage and sell to everyone else as actually just being healthy skepticism. No, skepticism and denial are not the same thing. Some of the Disrespect fans also told their followers to dismiss the allegations and the fact that they came from ex-Twitch employees simply because Cody is gay and or left-leaning. Earlier, these same groups of people told those who were skeptical of Disrespect's innocence that their opinions on Disrespect were not based on good enough evidence. Y'all are just haters. Your opinions are too easily swayed by bullshit things that don't really mean anything, don't really matter, and you should instead wait even longer to base your opinions on additional facts yet to be developed, and wait to be revealed the whole truth of what actually happened before forming your opinion. But then that group turned around to tell everybody, well, there's no need to wait for more facts before making up your mind and forming your opinion, because we've concluded, since one of the Twitch whistleblowers is a left-leaning gay guy, the allegations can't possibly be true, and therefore de facto Disrespect must be innocent. Case closed. Oh yeah, that is some real solid reasoning right there. You're not at all asking people to let their opinion be swayed by anecdotal bullshit that has absolutely nothing to do with uncovering what really happened. No. You have really cracked the case, Watson. Your reasoning is airtight and impenetrable. I wonder why we don't use this same method to deduce all sexual predator cases. I mean, it's so easy. Were any of the victims or witnesses left-leaning or gay? Yeah, I think so. Then it couldn't have happened. It can't be true. Case closed. Nothing to see here. All you guys are just haters.
You think multiple people who actually worked there at the time corroborating the details of the allegations or Doc's refusal to deny the activities in the allegations is considered credible grounds for being skeptical of his innocence? And you're gonna let a silly thing like that influence your opinion? Huh. Why don't you be a real American and let your opinion teeter on real evidence, like whether or not that whistleblower is a conservative like us, or if he's actually just one of those gays? That's the only way to get to the real truth. By God.
But it didn't stop there. Keep in mind, there was a good bit of Dr. Disrespect fans who were seeing the writing on the wall, who were being critical thinkers and observers, and did in fact have a healthy level of suspicion at this point. But the right-wing side of Dr. Disrespect's unwavering fans also produced a fake email that they claimed also came from an ex-Twitch employee, saying something completely different though from everybody else. The only problem? Their ex-Twitch employee, coincidentally, just so happens to be an unnamed, unverifiable source, posted by another random no-name source on Reddit. Now earlier, people were pointing out that a situation like this was more than enough grounds for absolute skepticism, okay? But now that they have a fake email saying things that they want to hear, they were sharing it like crazy. The email essentially wrote out fan fiction of what Disrespect fans hoped the story actually was behind the scenes. So one of his fans tried to write this in a way that sounded plausible or believable enough that they could use it to convince themselves and others that he must be innocent. The email claims that Dr. Disrespect was talking to a girl that was actually 17 going on 18, so it's not really that big of a deal. Also insinuating he didn't know her age, and states he wasn't actually trying to meet up with the girl, and that his text messages to the girl did not describe anything sexual or inappropriate. It claims that he wrote these messages to her several weeks before his last stream in 2020. A claim which Dr. Disrespect himself later debunked as being made up bullshit by plainly stating that the messages happened 3 years before the ban back in 2017, not several weeks. Then the fanfic says that during a vaguely described court case that turns out didn't actually happen, they made a finding through discovery that proved, are you ready? Are you ready for what it proved? The allegations were a complete fabrication that was all a part of a massive left-wing conspiracy to target and take down Dr. Disrespect. And it was also partially motivated by Twitch still being angry about Dr. Disrespect streaming himself in the bathroom that one time. Yes, it really says this. I'm telling you, this thing was written by a child. Now, it makes no mention of why Twitch would then sign a massive deal with Dr. Disrespect and promise him all that money if they already had this large conspiracy in play to get rid of him. A conspiracy that goes all the way back to the bathroom incident, of course. And it also makes no mention of why, if the whole point of Twitch's conspiracy was to take down Dr. Disrespect from the get-go, why did they fight so hard to make everybody sign NDAs to shut them up and keep the incident sealed from the public? Oh, I'm sorry. We're in fanfic make-believe land where logic is a non sequitur. The icing on top of the cake, one of the writer's last pleas to persuade the reader was them telling the reader, quote, "Just remember, he's been good to you." Yes, this whole thing is just comedically bad. There were several facts completely debunked in this fake email almost immediately, but despite that, and despite the fact that it was from an unnamed, unknown source, obviously worthy of the thickest skepticism if we're all being consistent here, that didn't matter. And the right-wing pages were posting it saying that it was either absolutely true or exonerated Dr. Disrespect and or that at least potentially exonerated him. It was possibly true and, quote, "We might be onto something here." So let's just recap. Credibly named and verified sources that actually worked at Twitch at the time in high-level positions corroborating the allegations that he did it? No, don't even entertain the possibility that it might be true. It can't be true. They are just haters and or gay leftists, okay? But an anonymously fake email written by an unnamed, unverifiable source riddled with easily detected lies and or inaccuracies, well, share that to everybody because, quote, "we might be onto something." And I feel like I need to say this. I personally did not want politics to be brought into the situation. I myself am politically independent. I despise both parties, and I don't think that the political disease, as people call it, is necessarily a conservative disease or a liberal disease. I think the cognitive disease itself is partisan teams and jerseys-based politics as a whole. Because either way, people tend to lean more on a color-coded system of what's red and what's blue to think for them and tell them what's right and wrong, rather than relying solely on critical thinking or observation skills. So with that said, the only reason politics are a part of the story is because those fans heavily injected it into the situation, calling everything woke or dismissing something because someone was left-leaning or gay, slandering those skeptical of Dr. Disrespect's innocence as all being crazy liberals, fabricating a bullshit email with right-wing fan fiction in it in an attempt to get people to not listen to what was actually happening around them, but instead base their opinion solely on what teams people were on, whether or not someone was right-leaning or not. or base their decision on a rumor of left-wing conspiracy with a gay Twitch operative, instead of just critically and honestly looking at the sources and the developments around them as they happened. And I could not just ignore that. I had to report on what I saw, and that is what I saw. They were essentially injecting identity politics as an effective tool to continuously move the goalposts to persuade their followers to deny there was any credibility to anything at all the way up until the point of only accepting that the criminal himself admits to their crime. Such an extreme qualification for credibility standards that I doubt they would apply such rigid standards to a situation, God forbid, including a friend or family members of theirs who was wronged or exploited. I highly doubt they would tell the judge and everybody, no matter what comes out, you have to wait until the bad guy admits he did it first. But anyways, I digress. After all this, Dr. Disrespect finally released an official statement. Before we get into it, let's recap what the allegations were. It was alleged that Dr. Disrespect sent sexual messages to an underage girl through Twitch Whisper chat room. These messages were inappropriate and sexual at times, and they even discussed meeting up at TwitchCon of that year. Twitch was able to monitor and view these messages, which eventually led to them banning Dr. Disrespect from their platform. Now, with that clarified, let's get into Dr. Disrespect's tweet. He lambasted his critics for a paragraph or two before getting to the point, stating, quote, "First and foremost, I do want to apologize to everyone in my community as well as those close to me, my team, and everyone at Midnight Society Game Studio. A lot of people have been left in the dark about what happened yesterday with Midnight Society and we made the painful decision collectively to have me step down. Our team is full of incredibly talented and good people that have higher career expectations and families, and I'd never want to jeopardize the culture that we have carefully crafted. Everyone has been wanting to know why I was banned from Twitch, but for reasons outside my control, I was not able to say anything for the last several years. Now that 2 former Twitch employees have publicly disclosed the accusations, I can now tell you my side of the story regarding the ban. Were there Twitch Whisper messages with an individual minor back in 2017? The answer is yes. Were there real intentions behind these messages? The answer is absolutely not. These were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes lean too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. Nothing illegal happened. No pictures were shared. No crimes were committed. I never even met the individual. I went through a lengthy arbitration regarding a civil dispute with Twitch, and that case was resolved by a settlement. Let me be clear. It was not a criminal case against me, and no criminal charges have ever been brought against me. Now, from a moral standpoint, I'll absolutely take responsibility. I should have never entertained these conversations to begin with. That's on me. That's on me as an adult, a husband, and a father. It should have never happened. I get it. I'm not perfect, and I'll fucking own my shit. This was stupid. Now, with all that said, don't get it fucking mistaken. I've seen all the remarks and labels being thrown around so loosely. Social media is a destruction zone. I'm no fucking predator or pedophile. Are you kidding me? Anyone that truly knows me fucking knows where I stand on those things with those types of people. Fuck that. That's a different level of disgust that I fucking hate even hearing about. Don't be labeling me as the worst of the worst with your exaggerations. Get the fuck out of here with that shit. But I think I've said what I needed to say regarding the ban itself. That's it. That's why Twitch made the decision back in 2020. To my team, community, industry friends that have supported me, I apologize. I wish I could have said all this sooner. You guys have always showed me and my family love and support throughout all the years. We love you guys like you can't imagine. I have the fucking best community and circle. And if any of this have made you uncomfortable, I get it. You don't have to support me anymore, but just know you have always been greatly appreciated. But trust me when I say this, to all my haters that live and breathe social media with zero real life experience, I don't give a fuck about you. Finally, if you're uncomfortable with this entire statement and think I'm being a piece of shit, that's fine. But I'm not fucking going anywhere. I'm not the same guy that made this mistake all those years ago. I'm taking an extended vacation with my family as mentioned on stream. And I'm coming back with a heavy weight off my shoulders. They want me to disappear. Yeah, fucking right. He then immediately edited this post to remove the word minor because removing that detail left him with at least a little bit of plausible deniability for his fans to play around with. Fans who were grasping at straws at this point, and he knew it. His fans were then saying, quote, he didn't technically say it was a minor. Nowhere in his message did he say the person was a minor. They were holding on to that talking point so tightly as their last sliver of defense that they had left for Dr. Disrespect and the allegations. Until people, of course, pointed out that he had edited that word out of the tweet, at which point Dr. Disrespect then edited the word back into the tweet. He even stated in this tweet that from a moral standpoint, I will absolutely take responsibility, even though he then immediately tried to edit out the word minor before getting roasted for doing so, forcing him to edit the word back into the statement. So no, he's not a stand-up, straightforward, honest, quote, cut the bullshit type of guy that he says he is. That is a bullshit persona. I guarantee there is more information that he is withholding. I guarantee there were other details that he thought about including and then chose not to, like some of the details we're about to get into in this video. In the tweet, Dr. Disrespect admits he was caught inappropriately messaging a minor on the Whisper Twitch app, and it was indeed the reason for him getting banned. So those very specific details that his fans stated were complete BS turned out to all be true. But then he gets a little careful with his wording. Quote, were there real intentions behind these messages? The answer is absolutely not, meaning that even though he wrote about things he wanted to do, he claimed there was no real intentions behind those messages. Essentially, I said it, but I didn't really mean it. He continues, quote, these were casual, mutual conversations that sometimes lean too much in the direction of being inappropriate, but nothing more. Let's break down what that actually says here, and get rid of all the useless, excessive words that he's trying to use to soften the facts. Mutual just means that they both actively participated in these inappropriate conversations. That doesn't make anything better. Casual just means that he was casually messaging an underage girl. Then saying the messages, quote, sometimes leaned too much in the direction of being inappropriate, is a very drawn-out way of saying he sent inappropriate messages to a minor. It doesn't matter if it happened once, more than once, frequently, or infrequently, he was inappropriately messaging a minor. He then goes on to say, quote, nothing illegal happened, no pictures were shared, no crimes were committed, I never even met the individual. Which is another careful way of saying I was a creep who luckily got cut short of sending pictures or actually following through with my intentions of meeting up with this girl. It's also important to note, he went from saying, I admitted to no wrongdoing, to, okay, what I did was wrong, I betrayed my family, I betrayed my wife, but I didn't face any real criminal charges. Now, Cody Connors says the messages clearly showed Dr. Disrespect messaging the underage girl with intentions to meet up with her at TwitchCon, and the doc admits sending inappropriate messages, self-alleging inappropriate intentions in those messages to a minor, but simply says the intentions weren't real. Trust me, bro, they weren't real. To get the proper perspective, let's put things this way. If you have a young daughter, or even a young sister or niece, and you find out that a 35-year-old man with a wife and kids is texting them inappropriate messages, describing inappropriate intentions, possibly meeting up, and the moment you confront him, he says, quote, well, I didn't really mean it, bro, the intentions weren't real. Or just because I texted her things I wanted to do doesn't mean I was really going to act on it. We didn't even send pictures. We didn't even meet in person yet. Would you let that slide? Would you be okay with that? Would you give this individual a pass? Would you say, oh, sorry, dude, my bad. Obviously, there's nothing wrong going on here. No. Dr. Disrespect also states that these messages didn't happen in 2020 around the time of the Twitch ban, but actually happened in 2017. The reason this is relevant is because it means the messages inviting the minor to meet up at TwitchCon was for TwitchCon 2017, which happened at the end of October 2017. This has led people to suspect that maybe this underage girl was the one he was talking about in his apology video for cheating on his wife, which he streamed 2 months later in December of 2017. But, of course, the #1 gaming news insider, Rod Slasher Breslow, states that the girl he was referring to in the apology video was not the same as the minor. And at TwitchCon 2017, Dr. Disrespect was actually in multiple girls' DMs trying to hook up, and his wife, known as Assassin, found out and had to later send multiple angry messages to multiple girls. And there's actually live stream footage from that particular TwitchCon that catches Dr. Disrespect flirting with a random girl. Take a listen.
His wife, for example, sent many angry messages to many women. Many women. So Doc did not just potentially, and this is unrelated to the current case, but just to show a pattern of behavior, Doc tried to get with several women and then were turned down. Mrs. Assassin found out all of this at the same time, and that is
Doc's
that
wife.
has ended up, yes,
For-
Doc's wife. It is
6 months
unclear
till
if Doc's
69,
wife
9
does
seconds.
know about this specific instance.
People saying
Even
it's
though
2x,
the
3x.
timeline matches up, that it was all at the same time.
But
It is still unclear.
what's the
if
biggest
Doc's
multiplier
wife
on,
knew about the minor,
on Razor
or
Shark,
knew
yeah.
about this specific girl, but she definitely knew about several other women that Doc either linked up with or tried.
So yeah, we really don't know how the minor plays into this. The whistleblower said that Dr. Disrespect's messages show him trying to meet up with the minor at TwitchCon, but Dr. Disrespect says the intentions weren't real and they didn't meet up. But the thing is, he still showed up to Twitch, you know what I mean? And it appears that she may have just not shown up. So if anybody backed out of their intentions written in those messages, it would have actually had to have been her, not him. He still showed up. So of course, this is just my best guess personally, but it appears maybe she's the one that didn't actually follow through, which may explain why he was then desperately trying to get into all these other women's DMs at TwitchCon because, you know, his original date didn't show. Either way, Dr. Disrespect is a horrible husband. Even after all this, you still had some extreme fans defending him in the comments of his own confession. And they were, again, generally right-leaning, religious, save the children type of folks. And there's nothing wrong with saying you want to save the children. It's just, be consistent. You know what I mean? Again, I want to point something out. I'm independent. I'm also a Christian. But I at no point felt the urge to blindly defend this dude or stick my head in the sand simply because I found him to be talented or his character and content entertaining. This shit that we're getting into right here is a cult-like attitude. This is not normal. This individual, right-wing, religious, protect the kids, even the unborn kids, all seems pretty principled. But they went right to denial mode, defending Dr. Disrespect in the comments of his own confession. At one point, there was this comment saying that many people in the replies had no morals. And this is a 100% true statement. There were people in the comments abandoning all their beliefs in exchange for outright denial or defense and standing by their favorite content creator. But then this guy replies, quote, "That's hilarious," coming from the crowd making a witch hunt on a guy that had zero proof prior to his admission of guilt. You guys are only right because he eventually admitted to doing it, is kind of like the dumbest flex I think I've ever seen. Especially coming from somebody defending a predator in the comments of the predator's own confession. Look, there's a Catholic joke in there, I know, but that's some low-hanging fruit and I'm just not going to go there. So, okay, you acknowledge his admission of guilt. Really? And these people had no reason at all to believe that there was any credibility to these allegations. There was no red flags to justify inspiring some legitimate suspicion or concern. And how did they end up being right? And you still got left behind after all that stuff came out and ended up being wrong. How did they predict that? Were they all just using magic? Was it all luck? Was it all luck and magic? Is that what it was? No. To break it down simply, yes, there may be some people that would be against Dr. Disrespect no matter what, even if he was innocent, and that's annoying. I get that. But honest, non-biased observers saw multiple people who worked at Twitch at the time coming out and corroborating the details of the allegations, and rightfully asserted that that counts as some pretty credible sourcing. But in your head, you manufactured a completely different world, separate from the real one, that asserted this in no way counted as credible sourcing. Other honest, non-biased observers saw Dr. Disrespect refusing to directly deny the activities detailed in the allegations and rather relying on vague legalistic language to talk around those details and avoid saying the words, "I didn't text a minor." We rightfully identified that behavior as a huge red flag. Again, the world in your head that you manufactured, you interpreted this vague response as somehow in fact being a direct response in direct denial to the details in the allegations, which it obviously wasn't. In the real world, we saw his refusal to call Cody Connors a liar and or go after anybody for libel as another very telling red flag. This was just another thing that in your world was completely ignored or dismissed, which led you and others who created similar worlds in their own heads to feel completely shocked or blindsided by his confession, as if it came out of nowhere. No, you skewed reality and you ended up being wrong. And in your inability to cope, you went back to defend him in the comments of his own confession. Good God. Look, holding out for evidence and more facts is always nice and a good thing, especially in the face of nameless, unverifiable rumors from unnamed, unverifiable sources. But that's not what this situation was, guys. We had people who were there at the time coming out one after the other, corroborating the allegations. We had very trusted, accurate insiders speaking with even more sources on the inside corroborating the allegations. We had Dr. Disrespect get investigated by his own company and then getting let go, and his company confirmed that they were acting upon factual information. This does not demand the same level of extreme skepticism as faceless rumors. Now, some people that I caught myself arguing with were grown adults, acting like children, and were so shocked and perplexed and embarrassed after Doc confessed that they deleted their entire Twitter account, I swear to God. Then, after all that, an additional Twitch employee named Shane Miller, who was formerly a safety operations specialist at Twitch, had this to say, quote, "The Dr. Disrespect situation. I don't think most people have an idea of how bad things were behind the scenes at Twitch. I literally worked in the department that had access to the most data and information. I saw private whispers, etc. It was literally my job to investigate daily. I saw things every day that I wish I'd never had to see. I always advocated for being a good human, always expressed with heavy emotion on my streams how Twitch let pedophiles run free every day. I signed an NDA and afraid to get in trouble, but I have to say something. It's been bothering me so long. These sick fucks don't deserve to be free. Sorry, it's pretty vague. I'm literally afraid for legal and safety reasons. Wish I could explain more, but want to let you guys know, half the shit you assume is probably true. Now, he makes it pretty clear that he's carefully avoiding talking directly about any one person, but he does start off by saying this is in regards to the Dr. Disrespect situation. And he's scared because, again, Twitch did make everybody sign NDAs in an attempt to lock everybody up. They didn't want any of this getting out. Now, according to people familiar with how Twitch traditionally internally operates, it's presumed that Cody Connors likely signed a standard 4-year NDA in 2020 before eventually dipping from the company. And that 4-year NDA would have obviously run out by June of this year, which is why he is saying what he's saying right now without any major fear of repercussions. Now, after this, we had the response from Tim the Tatman and Nick Merckx. So let's take a listen there.
Everything I'm seeing. I have known Doc for a while now. We've played games for years. And seeing everything that is spiraling right now is a very difficult thing for me personally. And I'm sure for a lot of y'all out there. I think for me, I know a lot of you are asking, Tim, what are you feeling? Tim, what are you feeling? My bottom line, I think, is if what he is saying, where he said that he was messaging a minor and it would sometimes lead to teeter on inappropriate, if he knew that was a minor and those were the messages being sent, I cannot support that. I can't. I appreciate y'all. This is beating me up, but this is unfortunate to say the least. This is awful. So appreciate you guys. Thank you for the love you give, and I'll see y'all soon, man.
Now, there's not much to say about this other than it appears he's legitimately jarred and in disbelief. But it also kind of feels like if he had any more wiggle room or plausible deniability to play around with, he would still be kind of defending Dr. Disrespect. But obviously he can't do that now because Dr. Disrespect's confession, so whatever. Next we have Nick Merckx, who even after all this stuff had happened, he was still kind of coercing his fans into denial, saying, quote, I heard we get more information today, hope for the best, but I get it, it's his friend, and he's going to hold out as long as possible. Let's see what he had to say.
Yo, checking in. I'm seeing everything on Twitter, and I read through Doc's tweet, and in that very tweet, he basically confirms that, you know, he was texting an underage girl, and it went weird sometimes, you know, and look, just to be blunt and straightforward, man, that's inexcusable, it's unacceptable, right? There's no excuse for something like that, and I can't support it. Hang on, honey. Doing this, talking to Twitter. I can't support it. I can't defend it. And look, the boys and I are torn up over it too, man, because we played a lot of games with the guy, and it feels a little weird, but what can you do, you know? So I just wanted to update you guys on my thoughts and how I'm feeling. And I mean, look, I hope you guys have a good day, all right?
Now, look, I do have something to say about this. Merckx has been openly upset about things that he says he personally feels endangers children, including trans people. And he has no issue causing direct beef with trans people without beating around the bush, and more recently told one that she should be ashamed of herself. But that same energy is nowhere to be found in this video talking about Dr. Disrespect, who literally just admitted to actually being a predator, to actually inappropriately messaging a minor. Nick even tried to soften how bad it all sounded by saying, well, you know, he was texting a minor and things just got a little weird. Yeah, no, things got a little predatory, my dude. He's quick to directly call shame on other people who did nothing wrong, simply for being trans, and insinuate synonymous links between trans people and predators. But when talking about someone who literally just admitted to inappropriately messaging a minor, he says, well, you know, things just got a little weird, man. That's pathetic. Being honest, that's just really pathetic. But I am glad that regardless, he did state that it was unacceptable behavior. And I am glad he ended the video the way that he did, and at least took the bare minimum stand of stepping away from playing with Dr. Disrespect in the future. At the very least, he did that, and that is a good thing, and he does deserve brownie points for that, even if you don't think it's that much. And for Tim the Tatman and Nick Merckx as a whole, Dr. Disrespect was their friend, that they were genuinely convinced was a solid guy all the way around. So in regards to losing a friend, I'm sure this absolutely hit them out of nowhere, and it hit like a dump truck, and that sucks. And as far as that goes, I do feel bad for any of his friends or family who genuinely didn't know beforehand and feel blindsided by all this. That is really shitty. But it's not over. There were still people grasping at straws, trying to manufacture possible scenarios of which Dr. Disrespect wasn't completely ruined by all this. And one scenario was that, well, the messages to the minor were inappropriate, but they weren't sexual in any way, or he didn't know the girl's age, and everything is being blown way out of proportion. But again, a lot of people who were non-biased looking at his confession pointed out that, I guarantee he would have made an assertive effort to detail that in his tweet. He would have fought hard to let everybody know and make it crystal clear that he did not know her age. But he didn't say that. He didn't do that. And on top of all this lingering denial scattered across Twitter and YouTube, Bloomberg News and the Rolling Stones have both collectively confirmed more details from additional sources from Twitch as well as previous sources. Bloomberg got confirmation 3 times that Dr. Disrespect was sending messages to a minor that were explicitly sexual in nature. The messages wrote out, quote, sexually graphic details. And Bloomberg received 2 confirmations that Dr. Disrespect did message her about her plans coming to TwitchCon. Additional sources also confirmed that he absolutely knew the girl's age, and Doc assured her that it wasn't a problem. Quote, Dr. Disrespect was made aware by the individual that they were underage during this conversation, after which he indicated that this was no problem and continued on. The former employee says, quote, there was no confusion. Messages sent after this was acknowledged were no less graphic and in sexual explicit nature than before. They went on to explain how the massive flow of allegations against various streamers became overwhelming, and they needed to create a new task force to investigate the claims and figure out how to handle situations where things turned out to be true. Quote, as some of its streamers faced a flood of sexual misconduct allegations in June 2020, Twitch created an incident response team codenamed, quote, Gold Sparrow, to develop a process to investigate and take action on the reports as one unit. We wanted to be able to process mounting investigations quicker and with more resources while providing as much support for the victims as possible. The former employees clarified Twitch did not provide comment by press time. When the initial report about BAME's alleged inappropriate messages came through in 2020, an investigation began. Quote, after viewing the contents of Whisper Conversations, it quickly became clear the egregiousness of conduct and what actions Twitch must take. The decision to permanently terminate BAM was relatively quick due to the severity of his behavior. Now, previously, as mentioned in my first video on the issue, I was told that some Twitch employees had spread the word over to YouTube to warn them what the situation actually was to protect them from hiring on Dr. Disrespect. And YouTube, in turn, was allegedly pretty passive to the issue and allowed Dr. Disrespect in regardless. And some people's response to me saying this in that video was, oh yeah, everything that I hear is somebody telling somebody something else, blah, 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 blah. But this now has actually been confirmed as true by Ryan White of Google. Former global head of gaming partnerships at Google, Ryan White, confirmed to Rolling Stone that Beam was not offered a contract due to chatter about the circumstances of his Twitch ban. He says that Twitch employee and journalists investigating the incident told YouTube employees that it involved inappropriate messages to a minor. Now, he made clear that this was the reason they never signed an official contract deal with Dr. Disrespect, in stating that there was times he wasn't sure how to feel or what to believe about the allegations, and that, quote, the whole situation got even more confusing when Twitch settled and effectively said, quote, no wrongdoing, which then made everyone in the industry dismiss the rumors. One ex-Twitch employee alleges there may be a law enforcement investigation. They appear to insinuate the messages are now accessible to law enforcement, but they don't directly say so, saying that Twitch can't and won't make the messages public, saying, quote, not only endangers the victim and investigations by law enforcement. Now, are they insinuating that releasing the messages would risk prompting an investigation by law enforcement, or are they insinuating there's already a law enforcement investigation that's been going on the whole time? Or is there a new law enforcement investigation that was only prompted after the allegations blew up and are now made aware to the general public? Because again, keep in mind, private settlements are primarily used by corporations to not only keep everybody's mouth locked up on the incident, but to also avoid unwanted involvement by law enforcement. So if this getting out in the open and being reported right now has prompted a law enforcement investigation, that's kind of a big deal that I'm sure Dr. Disrespect has already been made aware of while on his, quote, family vacation. So obviously there is still things yet to unfold, possibly in the near future. But for now, I think this pretty much covers it all. Thanks for watching. Please be sure to like this video. And if you want to support my channel, please subscribe and comment down below. I very much appreciate you guys when you do that. I love hearing from you, whether it's positive, negative, agree, or disagree. I don't care. Just keep that conversation going, and I'll catch you guys next time.